The Curly Howard mystery is worse than thought. Curly Howard was born Jerome Lester Horwitz on October 22 and 1903 came into the world in New York City, a busy place that was home to millions of immigrants trying to find jobs and a stable life in America. He was born to Jenny Gorovitz and Solomon Horwitz, who were part of the Jewish immigrant community. His parents worked hard to raise their children and give them what they needed in a time when life was often tough for working-class families. Curly was the youngest of the 5 sons in the household, which meant that he was both the most spoiled and the most protected among the brothers. His family came from Lithuanian Jewish roots, bringing with them special traditions, language, and culture from the old world that mixed into their new life in America. Because he was the youngest, his family had a strong love for him. His brothers gave him the nickname Babe, a sweet name that stuck with him throughout his early years. Later on, he would become widely known by the nickname Curly, a name that ironically is about his decision to shave his hair, leaving his head bare and thus helping create his funny stage look. His Hebrew name, Yehuda Lev ben Shlomonadin Halevi, showed his deep cultural and religious background, reminding those who knew him of his Jewish heritage and his family's traditions. Even as he made a place for himself in American identity growing up, Curly was by all accounts a quiet and gentle child, quite different from the loud, wild character he would later play on screen. His parents never had to worry much about discipline with him, as he was rarely the source of trouble at home. In school, however, he was only an average student, not really doing great in academics. What he lacked in school smarts, he made up for in physical ability, showing himself to be a natural athlete. He was quick and coordinated, something that later helped him in his slapstick routines with the Stooges from an early age. He also looked up to his older brothers, especially Moe and Shemp, admiring them and often trying to follow their example. Like them, Curly eventually left school before finishing, working odd jobs to help support himself and to gain independence. What many might not know is that Curly had artistic talents beyond comedy. He was a skilled ballroom dancer and also had a surprisingly pleasant singing voice, which showed that his range of talents was far wider than the wild physical tricks he later became famous for. Despite these refined skills, it was comedy that pulled most at his heart. He loved to make people laugh, even in casual settings, and from early on, he had a passion for acting and performing. A scary incident from his youth shaped much of his physicality later in life. At the age of 12, Curly accidentally shot himself in the foot while handling a loaded rifle. The accident was nearly fatal as he risked bleeding to death. Fortunately, his brother Moe was quick to act, rushing him to the hospital where doctors managed to save his life. Though he survived, the accident left him with a noticeable limp that stayed with him permanently. Years later, when he became part of the Three Stooges, he cleverly turned this disability into a part of his act, creating an exaggerated walk on screen that hid the limp while also adding to the comedic silliness of his performances. Curly's first true entry into show business came in 1928 when he performed as a comedy musical conductor for Thierville Knapp Band. Even in this role, his comedic instincts shone through, often drawing attention away from the musicians. Moe would later say that Curly's natural stage presence and tricks frequently overshadowed the band's actual performances. Around the same time, Moe and his brother Shemp were making names for themselves as part of Ted Healy's Stooges, a hugely popular vaudeville act of that era. In 1932, a turning point happened when Shemp accepted a contract at Vidapone Studios in Brooklyn, leaving the act. Moe, seeing his youngest brother's potential, suggested that Curly step in to fill the role of the third stooge. At first, Ted Healy was hesitant. He thought Curly was too handsome and appealing to be funny, fearing that audiences wouldn't laugh at someone with such a good-looking appearance. Determined to prove otherwise, Curly took a bold step. He shaved off his thick, wavy hair, instantly transforming his appearance into something more comedic and weird. This brave move not only earned him the role, but also gave birth to the iconic image of Curly that would forever be etched into comedy history. By 1934, Ted Healy decided to go after his own career with MGM, leaving the act behind. Moe, Curly, and Larry Finnegan renamed themselves the Three Stooges and signed with Columbia Pictures to appear in 2 real comedy short films. This decision marked the beginning of one of the most legendary comedy acts in Hollywood history. Over time, the Stooges became Columbia's most successful short subject stars, with Curly playing the most beloved and important role in the group's routines. Curly's childlike innocence, goofy mannerisms, and unmatched comedic timing quickly won over audiences. He became a particular favorite among children who adored his high-pitched voice, playful tricks, and low-vabla personality. Directors quickly learned that Curly's genius worked best when he was allowed to improvise. Many times, scenes were shot without strict scripting, as filmmakers discovered that Curly's spontaneous creativity produced comedy gold. Director Jules White often left intentional gaps in scripts to give Curly room to improvise entire routines, sometimes lasting several minutes. The late 1930 seconds and early 1940s became the golden years for the Three Stooges, with Curly at the peak of his powers. Their short films including Punch Drunks 1934, We Want Our Mummy 1938, A Plumbing We Will Go 1940, and Cactus Makes Perfect 1942 were loved by audiences and remain timeless classics. In these shorts, Curly's ability to combine physical comedy, verbal nonsense, and endearing excellence cemented his status as the heart of the Stooges. His brother Mo once revealed that if Curly ever forgot his lines during filming, directors rarely stopped the cameras. Instead, Curly was given the freedom to improvise his way through theming, often turning mistakes into some of the funniest scenes. His unique reactions, facial expressions, and inventive tricks became so important to the act that even after Curly was forced to leave the Stooges due to illness, his style was copied by theaters in tribute to his lasting influence. Curly Howard's personal life was complex, marked by a series of marriages and relationships that showed both his search for stability and the difficulties he faced as a beloved but troubled entertainer throughout his lifetime. Curly entered for marriages and was the father of two daughters, each relationship leaving a unique mark on his story. His first marriage was to Julia Rosenthal, whom he wed on August 5, 1930. This union, however, was remarkably short-lived, lasting less than 6 months before ending in divorce on January 6, 1931. Many biographers have suggested that this marriage may have been rushed into, perhaps during a period of youthful impulsives on Curly's part. At this point in his life, he was still struggling to find his path and had not yet achieved the fame that would come with his entry into the Three Stooges in 1932. The shortness of the marriage showed that the couple's personalities or goals may not have matched, and although not much is known about Julia Rosenthal after her place in Curly's life represents the first of several attempts to find lasting companionship. Curly's second marriage was to Elaine Icky, whom he married on June 7, 1937. This relationship was more significant, lasting 3 years before ending in divorce on July 11, 1940. During their marriage, Curly and Elaine welcomed a daughter, Marilyn Howard Server. Born on December 18, 1938, Marilyn's birth marked a major turning point in Curly's personal life, as she would remain one of his 2 children and a cherished part of his legacy. Marilyn lived a long life, passing away on May 6, 2025, nearly 87 years after her birth. She was said to have carried with her the memory of her famous father, though she largely lived outside of the spotlight. Despite Curly's demanding schedule and personal challenges, his love for Marilyn was genuine, even if his career and health struggles sometimes prevented him from being as present as he might have wished. Following his divorce from Lane, Curly sought companionship on Seymour and married Marion Buxbaum on October 17, 1945. This marriage, however, was notorious litigant and unhappy. Reports describe the union as filled with conflict, with the couple fighting over financial and personal issues. The marriage quickly fell apart, and by July 22, 1946, they divorced. Many of Curly's friends and colleagues later said that this period in his life was one of deep stress and unhappiness, with the failed marriage leaving him emotionally shaken. For a man already struggling with declining health due to strokes and long-term physical strain from his slapstick performances, the instability of his marriage to Marion was particularly difficult. Curly's final marriage proved to be the most lasting and supportive of his lifetime. On July 31, 1947, he married Valerie Newman, who remained by his side until his death on January 18, 1952. Valerie was often described as a stabilizing force in Curly's latter years. Unlike his earlier marriages, which had ended in short-lived unions and heartache, Valerie's devotion to him was steadfast, especially during his long and painful decline in health following a massive stroke in 1946. She cared for him carefully as his condition worsened, showing loyalty and compassion that made her stand apart from his earlier partners. Together they had a daughter, Janie Howard Hankey, born in 1948. Janie was only a young child when her father passed away in 1952, and her memories of him were limited. Yet her existence ensured that Curly's legacy lived on not only through his work, but through his family line. When people think of Curly Howard, the beloved bald-headed childlike clown of the Three Stooges, they usually picture his infectious laugh, his wild energy, and his instantly recognizable catchphrases. But behind the slapstick tricks that entertained millions, there lies a much darker and more complicated story, one that many fans don't know, or only think they know. The mystery surrounding Curly Howard is worse than we thought. Becco Seed isn't just about a comedian who burned too brightly and faded too soon. It's about unanswered questions, broken relationships, hidden struggles, and the possibility that the man audiences loved was far more tragic than any imagined. To begin with, Curly's personal life was filled with chaos that directly clashed with his public image. On screen, he was the innocent child character, gentle, silly, incapable of cruelty. Off-screen, however, his life was marked by unstable relations, drinking, womanizing, and failed marriages. He longed for true love, but time and again found himself in situations where he was used, rejected, or left heartbroken. The contrast between the Curly the public saw and the Jerome Howard who lived behind the scenes is part of the mystery. How could a man so full of joy to others live with so much loneliness himself? Another layer of the mystery is in his health. Curly's physical decline began shockingly early. By the time he was in his 30s, his hard living, combined with his weight and lack of self-care, was already taking a serious toll. Some accounts suggest that even during his peak years with the Stooges, he was already showing signs of tiredness, depression, and even minor strokes that went unnoticed or ignored. What makes it worse is that those around him often blamed his slowness on laziness or lack of discipline rather than recognizing it as the beginning of a devastating health crisis. This negligence raises uncomfortable questions. Could Curly's decline have been prevented if those closest to him had stepped in sooner? Did the studio system and the Stooges' grueling schedule contribute directly to the collapse of his health? The circumstances of his final years add yet another chilling dimension. After his major stroke in 1946, Curly became a shadow of himself. On the life of the party, he was left weakened, unable to perform, and dependent on others for care. While Mo, his brother, did everything he could to support him, many believed that Curly was isolated from the world he loved most, show business. His decline was notably physical, but emotional, as he watched his career vanish, and his identity as the beloved clown slip away. The mystery here is not just about his illness, but about how forgotten he was in the very industry he helped build. Then there are the unanswered questions about his legacy. Why is it that a man who was arguably the heart and soul of Three Stooges ended up being one of least remembered in terms of serious Hollywood recognition? While fans worship him, the entertainment industry has been slower to honor his contributions with the same respect they've given to other comedic legends. Was this neglect because of his early death or because the painful truth of his personal struggles made Hollywood uncomfortable in celebrating him fully? Finally, the darkest part of the Curly Howard mystery is what it reveals about fame itself. Curly gave his audiences laughter, joy, and unforgettable moments of pure silliness. But in return, his own life became one of suffering with little oft happiness he projected. It raises the haunting thought that sometimes the people who make us laugh the hardest are the ones hiding the deepest pain. Curly's mystery isn't just about weird questions in his biography, it's about the very nature of celebrity and how society uses its comedians without fully seeing the cost. The more you dig into Curly Howard's life, the more tragic it becomes. He wasn't just a clown, he was a fragile human being whose struggles were hidden by the laughter he created. And the mystery, why his life unraveled so quickly, why it wasn't better cared for, why his legacy hasn't been more fully honored, remains worse than we thought.